All right, I'd like to call over the regular meeting of the Perry Municipal Authority, September 19th, 2022 at 6:15. Roll call, please.
Wines. Marshall. Here. White.
Here.
Coffee.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Vaughn.
Here.
Goldar.
Here.
Streller.
Here. I do declare a quorum. This evening's invocation will be by Russ Meacham.
Let us pray. Father, we come before you because you are the Almighty, the all-powerful, the giver and sustainer of life. And we know that you've given us government, and we've given these gentlemen and ladies authority to rule over the community. Lord, we ask that you bless them this evening with discernment, with wisdom, that the decisions that are made here will be those that strengthen the city of Perry and make our community better. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Russ. Item number 1 is the consent agenda. Is one item for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wines.
Yes.
Marshall. Yes. White.
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Streller.
Yes, thank you. Item 4, comments from those assembled pertaining to the items on the PMA agenda. Hearing none. Item 5, proclamation, accommodations, reports, and inquiries by the governing body. Hearing none of those. We'll move to item 6. At this time, I would like to recess the PMA, and because this agenda item is in the city side, and all of our gentlemen that are here to address this issue, so we'll have that discussion, and we'll come back and reconvene here.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wines.
Yes.
Marshall. Yes. White.
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Streller.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to call over the regular meeting of the City Council of City of Perry, September 19th, 2022, 6:17. Roll call, please.
Wines. Here. Marshall. Here. White.
Here.
Coffee.
Here.
Brown.
Yes.
Williams.
Here.
Vaughn.
Here.
Goldar.
Here.
Streller.
Here. I do declare a quorum. Item 1 is the consent agenda. There's several items there for your approval.
Make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Do we need to talk about this at all?
What?
The minutes?
Yeah.
No, that she gave you the accurate minutes.
I know, but they're on the consent agenda. I didn't know if we need to talk about
Oh.
the changes or anything. Okay.
Need a second? Roll call, please.
Wines. Yes. Marshall. Yes. White.
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Streller.
Yes, thank you. Item 4, comments from those assembled pertaining to the items on the city agenda this evening. Hearing none. Item 5, proclamation, accommodation, reports, and inquiries by the governing body. I do have one comment to make. Former Mayor Chuck Arnold passed away this last week, and I do want to acknowledge that fact. He was a great steward of the community and cared, and he was a great mayor for us. I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that we appreciated the city, what he's done, and our condolences to the family.
Yeah.
Item 6, city manager report, monthly update.
Thank you, sir. Council, you have my comments on the sheet here. It's been a great couple of weekends since September 10th. We really appreciate that. What I'd like to do is to get Melanie and Laura to come up, and if you have some Main Street comments.
I'm Laura Palmer, and I am the new Main Street Director here. I was hired in June and started in July, and I was a board member before I was hired on as the director. I am from Perry. I was born and raised in Perry. My family's all from Perry, and graduated high school in Perry, got married in Perry. I have 3 boys, so this is really like my my hometown, and Perry means a lot to us. I recently went to Main Street Directors Conference, and they had one of the speakers there said that they feel like Main Street is like the heartbeat of the town, and I really kind of like the way that they said that, because I really do feel like we have something special in Perry where our whole downtown is just like a square, and most main streets are like just like one street, and I feel like that's exciting and a cool thing for us. Main Street's mission is to keep our downtown thriving through historic preservation and beautification, and one of our missions is to remember the town's history through traditions and enthusiastic community spirit, and we have had a lot of community events lately. So I know you guys probably have a list of them, but I'm just kind of going to go through each one of them. We started our Mingle on Mains in June. We had one in June, one in July, and one in August. They were very hot. We did have a good crowd in June. In July, it was like 105. We didn't have as many, but we had our first responders recognition, and they brought the fire trucks out and hosed down the kids, and they all really liked that. In August, we had our Meet a Maroon, and this year we incorporated all of the sports teams instead of just the football team, and it brought out a really big crowd. I feel like it was probably one of the biggest Meet a Maroons Mingle on Main that we've seen. Main Street gave away some Perry Maroon baskets that were donated by different people throughout the community. Superintendent Dr. McCarty spoke. Our athletic director Mike Harmon introduced all the teams and the coaches, and it was really a good night. When I had started before I started to become the director, I was contacted by somebody, and I think he's from Luther, but he was associated with the Cruise in Oklahoma organization who cruises into small towns, and he had asked me if we would be interested in being a part of that. Not really knowing, I was like, yeah, that sounds great, and it ended up being a huge event for our town, and everybody wants it to come back, but what they do is they pick out small towns and they start somewhere and they cruise. They don't want to set up and be a car show, they want to be a car cruise, and so they said they loved our downtown, how they could cruise around, and I think they cruised for hours and hours, and we had burnout contests, which was kind of something I wasn't sure about, and it ended up being great. And everybody wants to know if we can do it like all downtown next year, and I'm like, well, I don't know, but it was great. Seth Wadley helped with that. They did a big laser show on the courthouse, and I had people emailing me, calling me, asking on Facebook, who organized that? So that will definitely come back. Like, that's something that they said, it was great. And I had people say, this is what we used to do when we were growing up. We used to just cruise around town, and I was like, yay, we'll do it again. So that was in August. Just this weekend, we had a lot going on. We had our street dance on Friday night, and it was great. We had 2 bands come. We had a few food trucks open up early. Axe House served drinks. We had a lot of Main Street board members and volunteers that helped put that on, because if not, it wouldn't have been possible. So it was great. We brought back the Tiny Tot Review at the 16th celebration at the bandstand, which brought in 16 little contestants. We organized the little mini cheerleaders to come perform. We recognized our football homecoming coronation at the bandstand after the parade. We made some fans that had the parade line up on one side, events on the other that we handed out. And then we helped host, or be a part of, I guess, the beast eating contest between the fire department and the football team, which it was hot, and those football players didn't care. They ate a lot of pizza, so, and they won. And this week, we're not really resting too much. We're helping with the homecoming parade Thursday night, so we are just going to treat it kind of like a Mingle on Main. The wrestling takedown club is going to sell hot dogs. They're going to have their pep assembly, and we also have encouraged downtown businesses, and just in businesses in Perry, to decorate their storefronts for, to win the Perry Spirit Stick that we have passed around the past few years. Another part of our Main Street is our preservation and beautification projects. Each month, I have to submit a reinvestment report to the Oklahoma Main Street, and they just like to run I printed one out just so I can kind of show you. They just kind of put this out, and it just shows like different things throughout Oklahoma Main Streets that they all put together. And they asked me to report on buildings that are opening and closed, and the amount of rehab projects, facade projects, new constructions, and each month I submit for the month before. So the last time that I submitted, we had 1 facade rehab project, 2 buildings with rehab projects, and new construction. Within the last month, I've met with an architect that came down from Main Group who works with Main Street of Oklahoma, and we had him do some design assistant requests for the 611 Bakehouse for the front, and also Sandy Cochran's Conoco station on the corner. And since then, I've received those back, and so we're going to start working on those projects with them. So just some beautification for our downtown. I've also purchased some banners to help put in downtown businesses or downtown buildings that are empty, so that we can help people fill empty spaces. And I think there's only one up right now, but I do have more. And they say this space is not empty, it's full of possibilities, that we can get more people in our downtown buildings. Since I've been the Main Street Director, just going to share some of my community involvement. I've spoke at Rotary. I am attending Leadership Noble County. We have spoke to the Senior Citizen Center for helping them get a facade on the front of their building. I've attended the Main Street of Oklahoma Directors Conference in Yukon, which they went over a lot of historic preservation and different things. And Wednesday, I'm speaking at the sorority meeting for Beta Sigma Phi. There are some ladies in town that are really excited that I'm coming to with them on Wednesday. Some goals for Main Street is I had recently at one of our conferences, we had talked about different historic preservation things, and they said that one of the hardest things in old buildings is the roofs, and how that people don't want to fix the roofs and they don't care about the roofs because nobody sees their roofs. And so they said that it is really important to survey people's roofs and see if they're in need of repair, because what might not seem as an issue right now could eventually be a huge issue whenever the roof falls in and you have 2 strong businesses on both sides, but maybe you have a vacant space and then that falls, then now you're working on both of those. So I'd like to find somebody that we can work with to be able to present people that have roofs that need replaced. I would also like to, and I've actually talked to Brian Wheatley about this, about bringing banners back down to our downtown. He said he has a few and he only has 8 brackets, and the brackets are hard to find. And so with the past 2 weeks, we've kind of looked at what brackets maybe we need. And I really think that just changing banners around downtown it just really looks really good. And right now we only have 8 brackets, but we have lots of downtown poles that we could be putting stuff on. I recently met with a lady last weekend that wants to bring a farmer's market to our downtown square. She just really wants to set up downtown. So we are hopeful to bring something back in a few weekends in October on the Saturday mornings. And I would also, Melanie and I, and our board has talked about different ways we can reclaim vacant spaces, because I do feel like with our downtown being so pretty as it is, I think it's sad to see people using their downtown buildings as storage units, as like where you don't know what's in them. And I feel like it's kind of hard for the person beside them trying to run a good business, and then the building beside it has curtains and you can't even see what's in it. And I would really like to be a part of that. They had a conference in Chicago a few weekends ago, and I was like, Melanie, you want to go to Chicago? We just like, yes, we'd love to, but we didn't make it. But anyway, And the final thing is, within the next few weeks, we are starting our partnership platform, which Main Street is a 501c3 nonprofit, so we run off of partnerships. And we have a big goal this year that we want to meet, and we have 5 different levels of partnerships, so that we're hoping that we can just grow Main Street to be even bigger than it is today. And I have some little flyers for people that, or brochures. You can just take one and pass it around for anybody that wants to know a little bit more about Main Street. And I think on my last thing, I was gonna just give a shout out to all of our board members. Melanie McGuire is our chair, Kurt Andrews is our vice chair, April Bond is our treasurer, Amy Allen, our secretary. Other members include Rick Arterberry, Shay Boucher, Carly Rupp, Haley Collins, Austin Sherm, and Tiffany Blazer. In August, these awesome board members had a total of 23 volunteer hours, and I think this month when I go to report, they're gonna have double that.
Any questions? There's probably not many people in this room that remember, Gloria probably remember it, but there used to be on the square one Saturday a month that had like a flea market, swap meet, farmer's market. I mean, it was huge.
We want it to be like first Monday.
Huh?
We would like it to be like first Monday.
On Monday?
No.
Like the
Like
trade
first
days.
Monday.
Canton trade days.
First
Oh.
Have you
Monday.
ever been there? First Monday? Go, it's big.
Okay.
We don't
And
shop.
take your wife.
No,
We have wives.
So anyway, I just wanted to say that that's been, years ago when I was a kid, and that was a huge thing.
Yep.
I think
And,
a lot of people will want it to come back,
Yeah,
so.
I think it'd be a huge benefit for our downtown.
Mhm.
So would they try to incorporate, because there's kind of a farmer's market thing going on over here?
Yeah, I think that we just want it to be more in our downtown, and we want Main Street to be more of a part of it. Main Street's district doesn't stretch all the way to where I
So
think
is
they're
it
having
the
it
farmer's
now.
market lady you're talking about, is it the same one that's over here?
Some of the same people,
Oh, okay.
but is it in front of is it the same one that's by the
By
high school
Access.
gym?
Yeah, in Grady's
Yeah.
lot there?
Yeah.
Any questions? Thank you, ladies.
Let me piggyback on that just a little bit. With all the events we have coming, we've done, especially with the last couple of weekends, we had first responders. We had Exchange Bank's anniversary event. The rodeo events was 2 nights, and then celebration, we had BMAC yesterday had a really successful tournament. All this takes a lot of departments. You ladies rely upon the departments for the city to do electric parks and clean up and all that. So we really appreciate the work that we do together for this community. And was talking to my wife the other day, and I said, we have all these events that I just mentioned, and yet there are people that still say there's nothing to do in Perry. We can put it on the shelf, but if people don't come, that's on them. And I think that this 16th celebration, at least the 5 years that I've been here, was the biggest, I think, that we've had. So kudos to you and to all of you and everybody that works on the 16th celebration, because it's really a community effort. So thank you for being a part of this city manager thing. I appreciate it.
Well, and I'll say the events, anytime we have something going on, we're able to call on, we've called on Parks, we've called on Critter, we've called on Ryan Wheatley, we've called on every part of county, city, and they show up and they help out. And we couldn't do anything without the support of the city and the county too. So we thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
And our first responders, fire department, police officers, anytime we've needed them, they're like, they don't reject my calls. Not yet.
And one last final thing, Love's is committed that, confirmed that they will be open October 20th, including Arby's. So that's a good deal.
That it?
That's it, thank you.
Any
I
questions?
know I stole.
Could I make a comment about the celebration?
Yes, ma'am.
I heard someone say, and I thought it was so special, they said it felt like Perry was family again. So I don't know if it's because we didn't have COVID or we didn't have, but it's like everybody was more connected, and I thought that was great.
I thought that was a great event. Yeah, and I know I stole the item 8 there, but I thought it was something we needed to do together. So, thank you all. Thank you, ladies.
Item 7, the Chief Financial Officer's Report.
You guys have financials in front of you. Let me start out with, we continue to experience some software difficulties. And it's getting to the frustrating point that we may be having to look for some changes. In what
You
we're
said that
doing.
last month.
I know, and they assured us that it was fixed, and that assurance that it was fixed was not correct. So needless to say that, I apologize for you not having them in your packets, but we'll see what happens at the end of this month, when we get ready to do it again. Bottom line, a handful of items to tell you. If you're looking at your financials and you're looking at the third and fourth page of the document, the percentage in far right column, about 16% with 2 months in on this set of financials. So, look at 16%. The real big pieces between the seasonality things, and seasonality kind of affects general government because we pay for insurances up front. We have some upfront costs related to that. We have some capital outlay pieces, so that's general government. The rest of them, parks, swimming pool, the ballpark piece, those are going to run a little higher because of what we're doing during this time, and we kind of shut down those activities. Overall, the numbers are looking good from the expense, honestly, in both the city and the PMA. The big piece that I probably want to talk to you about, 3 big things. Number 1, our sales tax collections are going to be up. Even the sales tax collection next month, whenever I get to talk about it, is going to be up really nice. We're up about 49% over prior year through September this year. The hold on that is all of it, plus about 2%, is related to construction-related activities. Okay, so our sales tax being generated when we see the high numbers are because, and sales and use tax both are driven by construction NICS, the NICS codes related to construction. Okay, we can all assume exactly what that is, some big construction projects going on, but that's probably not a long-term piece that next year I'll budget these higher numbers in the sales tax just because of that collection. It's nice to have it, but these are like one-time shots in the arm. These are not going to be continual pieces. We'll know more in December whenever Love's opens and we get our first, deposit. While we won't know exactly what Love's deposit is, we'll be able to look at the increase in that NICS code and make some general assumptions as to what's going on. And we'll track
What's
that
that
year over
NICS
year.
stand
It's the National Industry Classification Code. So it's what puts out, everybody's assigned to a code based on what industry you're in. So, food has one, retail, commercial has one, gas, where I download it, there's 3 pages of it. I just try to simplify it down into what we're really looking at. But that's probably a highlight for us is we will be up significant on sales tax. I don't expect that to continue next year, so.
You said that a little fast. Did you actually say we're down 2% overall?
We're the
Year-over-year?
net when you factor out construction and you factor out those one-time differences, we are down over last year, yes.
That includes use tax in that conversation? Or
That
just
includes use tax in that conversation, because our use tax is also significantly driven by out-of-state delivery pieces in the construction sector. I do not have September's detail by SIC code. That it wasn't available today on the website. Usually we get it sometime around the 20th of the month, so I'll look. But even as much as it was up, I think it's all driven by sales tax related to construction. But I'll confirm that for you next month when we get ready to talk. 2 other things that I need to just mention directly. Number 1, CPI. I keep on talking about that. Our South region, less than 2.5 million. The BC group of CPI was up 8.6%. As I continue to tell you, looking at the 2-year number, which is the scarier part, the 2-year number is still up over 15, and at our expected growth, we'll finish 16.5 to 17. That's without some major adjustments in in CPI and the growth rate. You know, even the president came out or the White House, I can't say the president, the White House came out talking that they were expecting CPI to go down, you know, to be the lowest growth number, and they missed it by 0.4 of a point on their projections for the national numbers. So we're still not getting the relief that was expected. Yes, fuel prices are down. You guys will see that at the pump. We see that in what we're paying in gas, but that's not really the best part about what's going on. So that's number one bad news. We're still continuing on increased cost. Number two bad news is related to our wholesale electric cost. We received the OMPA bill. I've told you for the last 2 months, our fuel cost adjustment, the extra cost that OMPA is paying to purchase wholesale to purchase natural gas to bill us our wholesale electric, their side of the equation, was up 1.2 cents in June. Number was up 0.8 cents over that 1.2 in July, and our August bill is now up a penny and a quarter. So we're looking at over 3.25 cents additional cost that we will pass through to our citizens just based on the natural gas, or the fuel adjustment, which is mainly natural gas and coal, but mainly natural gas cost that OMPA is passing on to us. So in addition to high usage due to heat, we also will have a higher fuel rate that we're actually billing out. Our fuel rate back in March and April was 0.12 cents. We will bill out 0.49 cents in fuel costs just this month. So when people complain about their bills, guys, we're not making any additional money on these pieces. We're passing on the wholesale fuel cost that is there. So I want to make sure that PCA is out there. You know, you guys know, the public knows, and they can hear it here, that our bills that come out in September will continue to be high, not only because of the consumption amounts, but also because of the pass-through fuel cost. So I will leave you with that if there's any questions.
Thank you, Russ. Item 8, receive a quarterly report from the Main Street. Oh, Sherry left, sorry. Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, my bad.
Item 9, it's gonna be interesting here. A report from Matthew Coe of Myers, a PE of Myers Engineering concerning the canvass of bids for the Perry Water System Improvement Project. Item A is to receive a report and a presentation from Matthew Coe, including the canvass of bids. Sir, give us the good news.
Mayor, council, appreciate you. Well, the good news is we received quite a few bids. The bad news is they were over the budget, but we provided enough flexibility in our bid documents to be able to value engineer some things and get this project within budget. We are going to construct quite a bit of the 10-inch loop that we wanted to. Basically the whole northern portion of the line that we're talking down the highway and up north on 15th, and down Caw, over to 7th Street and back down. We are going to look at possibly cutting out the railroad bores, was one of the options that we looked at cutting for a cost savings. We had several sections on our bid. We had a water line section, we had a water tower section, we had the generator section, and then we had the high service pump replacement section. So the high service pump replacement section, the city can get a better deal using the current vendors they're using to rebuild and rehabilitate the existing pumps. In fact, when we started the project, we had 4 pumps we were looking at. By the time we got the bid, we were down to 2 pumps already. 2 pumps had already been serviced. So we have 3 pumps in really good shape at the water plant right now that's able to serve the system. The other 2 will probably be serviced sometime in the near future, I believe. The tanks, we were looking at doing some piping insulation and some submersible tank mixers at the tanks. We looked at doing some passive mixing systems to avoid having a mechanical piece of equipment in the tanks that is prone to failure and that would require somebody to climb the tower to pull those out. being able to operate the SCADA system and the high service pump stations such that we're going to force volume exchanges in these tanks is going to help with the ice formation and the freezing of pipes within these tanks, because we just continuously keep water moving in these, and that is going to help address those issues. So we have recommended maybe pulling that out so we can address the real reason we wanted to do this project, which was replacement of water mains through the system, to take care of some of these antiquated mains that are prone to failure, that required the water department to go out at all times of the year, season, go out and fix leaks. And this is also going to complete the 10-inch loop throughout the town and tie in the west zone out there by Love's and the west tower to the remainder of the system. We still have that in this project now. We had alternates for materials right now because we're seeing material prices all over the board right now because availability, you don't know what's available, there's supply chain issues. Poly pipe, which was typically over the past 5 or 6 years has typically been more expensive than PVC, is now typically cheaper than PVC to acquire right now. So we put in an alternate to be able to go with polyethylene pipe in lieu of PVC pipe. And when we looked at that, we actually went from a bidder that would have been second to being the new low bidder by switching to polyethylene pipe. When we received bids, Wind Construction was at $4.4 million, Timco was at $3.9 million, and then when we look at the reduction in lengths of line and dropping that down, you had Wind Construction at $2.75 million and Timco at about $3 million, so they're actually $250,000 lower. They're also the low bidder on the generator portion of the water project. The generators, they came in kind of after the fact, because one of the first things we wanted to do is make sure we didn't have any outstanding items at DEQ to address prior to trying to go to the OWRB to close a loan, because they won't let you close a loan if you have any outstanding violations with them. So right from the get-go, and if city staff had not been on it like they were in helping to get some of these items addressed, we probably wouldn't be the first people to go to the water board and have an opportunity to receive principal forgiveness. But city staff has been very good at addressing issues at the water plant with chemical feed lines and storage within the system, the fencing issues, to help me get this project to where we could bid, receive bids, and take this to loan closure. So thanks to Vernon and the rest of the city staff and Larry and everybody for making it really easy to, some communities aren't this, boots on the ground ready to go and attack problems when you have them. So I appreciate that. It makes it a lot easier to get these projects done and DEQ happy when you've got a staff that's willing to chip in and help. We got the project within budget with doing the generators and the water main portion. We pulled the tanks, like I said, we pulled the pumps. We still have some water mains left too. We have the option, we have the opportunity in the future to maybe try to apply for some additional funding opportunities, whether that's through ARPA or through that's a CDBG grant or other opportunities that may be coming in the future to try to take care of some of these other items that we'd like to see done. The remaining water lines, or if we want to go and try to do some passive mixing at the towers to enhance water quality within the system. We have plans ready to go, and having project readiness points is a big deal for a lot of the funding agencies, because they need to be able to get those dollars out there when they receive their allocation from the state, and they don't like to sit there and have a pot of money just sitting there with nowhere to spend it. So when you have a project ready to go, they're like, let's fund them, they're ready to go, they get that money out there, and they sit back and wait for the next pot to come in. So we'll see, DWSRF has a pot of, I think, $12 million right now. I believe Perry is the first one in line to have an opportunity to receive some of that funding, and that was the goal all along when we started on this project in January, was to get this project done, make sure we were able to get to the trough, close to first, so we got there first, so that's good. So if there's any questions, I could continue to talk about the project, but I think it's best if I just answer any questions about what we took out from the project or what we're doing. So
how about the change order number 1?
change order one, we will do a change order with Wind Construction to be able to address some of the minor problems at the water tower. So we need one of the items on the notice of violation was install a flat gate on the overflow pipes of the tower. Right now, the overflow pipes of the tower have a screen on it, so it's going to keep anything from crawling up the pipes or anything like that. But there is still a possibility you could have dust or debris, fine particles, make its way up the water tower and end up in the tank. So what they want to see is they want to see a gravity gate over the end of those overflow pipes at the water tower to keep any foreign debris from being able to enter the towers. Not a major deal. The 15 street towers have some control valves that are in need of replacement too. So that will be, but that's all at grade, nothing elevated. So those are two items that we need to address. And I've already started the conversation with Wind Construction to get me pricing to be able to add those onto their construction contract. So that's going to be nice to be able to address everything with one construction contractor that's reputable.
You've worked with him before, correct?
I have worked with Wind Construction on some really large projects. They did a 200 million gallon per day pump station for me down at the Draper Water Treatment Plant. Was the most recent project I've worked with them on. They've done several water treatment plant projects with Myers Engineering. They did Booster Pump Station 14 in Oklahoma City for me, so I have experience with them. I know several of the managers there too. So
And it's been a good experience, I'm assuming.
yes, it's been a good relationship. They told me they're going to do most of the line work. What you run into plant work is sometimes how pleasant the project is to do is a function of their subcontractors. Because sometimes the lowest bid they receive isn't always the best, but other than that, as general contractors, they've always been wonderful. They've had a couple subcontractors that haven't been my favorite, but when you're doing $20 to $30 million projects, they wear on you.
But you said the other day, I think you told us that they plan on doing a lot of the construction themselves.
That line work, yes. I'd say they will probably have a boring contractor, but they plan on doing a lot of line work themselves. That was, when I was looking at it, I called them, I said, who's your subcontractor? And they said, well, we may use somebody for the boring, but we're going to do the line work. They're actually doing a project right now for Bill Myers down in Hera, Oklahoma, and they're doing great down there. So they're good at line work. They're good at what they do. They have large staff, plenty of equipment. So
Good news.
Are we prepared to, because we don't have to award bids tonight, are we prepared to award a bid tonight? Or
I would make it contingent on securing the financing through the Water Resources Board and the principal forgiveness, and negotiation of the change order to stay within that budget. So,
okay, so we could do B and C, of course, because it's contingent and because it's awarding bids and not entering into contracts. There's no liability to the city for that if you're not entering into contracts. Okay. You know, if we want, why don't we just move on to, before we take action here, let's hear the whole, it might make sense to hear from everyone. Mr. Mayor, if you want to move on, unless there's questions, we could move on to number 10 and hear from John Wolf.
So do you not want to address B and C at
Oh,
this point?
we can come, we
We'll
can
come
come
back
back.
to it?
Yeah,
All right,
let's
all right,
listen
that's
to
fine.
everything,
All right.
I think.
All right.
We don't have money, we can't.
Yeah.
No, I get it. What do you mean we get no money? You're my finance guy, what are you talking about?
We got it lined up here. John has it lined up here. Without the money, don't,
No,
I don't want
we'll
to.
we'll return to it.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Appreciate everything you do for us.
I
man.
appreciate you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
All right, we will move to item 10. John was telling me how he wants to speak earlier. So presentation from John Wolf, the President of the Municipal Finance Services on financing of the Prairie Water System Project through the Oklahoma Water Resource Board, DWOWR program. Sir, come join us.
Good evening. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pass these around here, if you don't mind. Sorry, your short ones. What's being passed around is
everything that Matt had talked to you about regarding this project and our budget is referred to for the actual cost of the project plus cost of doing the loan is set at a cap of $4 million. And when we were looking at this, oh my gosh, 9 months ago, December, January timeframe, we were looking at the goal of doing as much with water, but at the same time receiving $1 million. Let's try to take advantage of grant programs that were available at DEQ, through the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, to help you with this particular project. And the $1 million that we were looking to take advantage of as for the city would certainly help with the 25% portion of this project. Those dollars were all tied with last fiscal year that went through June 30. And those dollars actually went out the door, but that we're in a new fiscal year starting July 1. So there's new funds that are available, and you can receive up to $1 million. Actually, DEQ applied 2 different pots of money. They have a grant program or principal forgiveness program that, depending on the size of your community, you can get up to $800,000. But you could also receive additional funding. So DEQ actually allocated an additional $200,000 to get you up to $1 million. So that's key, first thing. But you're first in line. And the other thing that we looked at is the interest rate market has changed a little bit since last December. And so when you're looking at fixed rate loans, going out 30 years, this is a 30-year asset. What we look at is where interest rates at, how does it look over, if you look back over 10, 20, 30 years. Today, if you were able to lock this loan in, fixed for 30 years, it would be at 3.39%. We wish we could lock in the rate, assuming if you were to decide to move forward, we could lock that rate in. The DEQ has actually not received their federal funding or grant funding on this. They said today their days are maybe a couple weeks away or so, and then you could actually lock the rate in at that point in time. So what you have in front of you is a debt payment schedule of what this looked like last Thursday. Unfortunately, we had to get everything to you, get the information out to you. And the key thing is in looking at everything that Mr. Coe had addressed with you regarding the project and the adjustments that were made and different types of movement and how you did accomplish certain objectives. At the same time, to receive a 25% principal forgiveness, we never showed you, if you were just to have gone out and borrowed money, what the net effective benefit of getting $1 million. It's essentially getting a 0% loan on your actual project. So instead of borrowing 4, you borrow 3. That's what's in front of you. The maximum annual debt payment, assuming a 3.36, which is what it was last Thursday, it's about $161,368, if I read that number correctly. 366. Okay. So that's where we'd be today. And so the next step was to look at, and we discussed this, I think, in December of last year. We talked about how do we address paying for this. And you're getting $1 million in a grant or principal forgiveness. So how would you pay for this cash flow wise? And so over the last week or so, we've been speaking with staff and looking at your current customer counts. And if you were just to spread this out, pretty simple math, you don't need me up here talking to you about this. You're about 162,000 a year. How do you spread that out over how many customers you have? And talking with staff, the most recent billing showed you had 2,440 water customers. And so we simply looked at one option, which would be divide the 161,000 by 2,440 times 12 months. That's how many total bills you get. And we're looking at a $5.51 increase in your water rates. to pay for this particular project. That's netting out and getting the $1 million. So 551 increase per customer. There was also made aware, and you guys can talk about this in further detail if you want, there were increases that or water rates, adder rates that should have fallen off, I think. December, that's what we talked about today, December of last year, which was $1.05 on your base charge and then a fractional charge on your per cubic feet. And looking at your average customer that uses 5,000 gallons, then we're looking at about $1.90 to $2 per, that's how much they were actually, should have stopped paying in December or January. And so from this aspect, when we look at what is the net impact to the customer, and staff can interrupt me at any point in time, but you're looking at if those charges fall off that are about $2, the net effect of what someone's bill was last month is $551, subtracting $2, you're looking at $3.51. That's a net effect of what your customer's water bill would go up to pay for all these improvements that were mentioned before. I'll let staff address anything else regarding that issue, but that's the key point of what you have in front of you.
Well, let's do it now. Incidentally, we want to keep faith with the public. And because we didn't take it off, it's time to take it off. And so over the next, how many months?
11.
Well, no, on this month, in September's bill, there will be approximately an $18 credit per customer that's gonna go back on their bill to adjust for this.
So we're gonna do it all
this
at
extra.
once?
Yeah,
Since-
we're just gonna put it on. And with the higher, as I spoke about earlier, with the higher rates and everything else, unfortunately, nobody's gonna notice or know that we put that credit back because they're gonna be paying more. But we wanna get that money back out on their bill as quickly as possible.
And that's going to happen independently of.
Yeah.
of
We're doing that whether any of this
this.
happens, but, you know, whenever it was realized in the building department that had not been removed, we started the calculation to figure out exactly what it is. We're working with Cassell at the moment to get the detail by customer. So, because it is on that, what was approximate $2 adder, it was $1.07, well, it was $1.05, $1.07 adder, and then it had a per gallon add on top of it. So we actually have to do it by customer, because some customers pay more than others, so we can't just across the board give a number. Average is $18.
Now, we did look at two alternatives. It's on your second sheet. We looked at volumetric charge as an option to raising your base rate. And you can see the per 1,000 charge. This is for gallon meters. If you look at each one of those tiers, those are your current tiers. If you use the first 1,500, then it's like 3,000 gallons each tier. And you can see what the price for each tier would go up by, which is essentially about a 35% increase from the rates you see here. And so you have the option either or. It's up to you. I can't tell you what would be, it's kind of hard to say what's the most palatable. Well, neither's palatable. But in order to do this project, I would probably suggest that you guys is to track, to have this fee go on, and you can track it to this loan. But we did the analysis on both, one or the other. And be glad to answer any questions that any of you may have regarding this.
Doing some research myself, I know that our water rates are substantially cheaper than other communities around us. And so, either way, like I said, it's not palatable, but our water rates are cheap. So if we were to raise the water rate, if you want to raise the water rate, it's still within the dynamics of some of the other rates in communities around us. I just remember, John, when I don't know if it was Vernon or who it was, that we laid the big map, at council, you remember we laid the big map out up there, and we all gathered around it, and we were all excited about the project, and here we are, and what's exciting to me is if we can approve this, we'll be the first one to the table to ask for our $1 million, and it'd be nice.
Well, the comment was made, there's about a little over $12 million that's available. And most communities will obviously try to get up to their $1 million max that they can get. And not every community is going to be at $1 million, but if you just do some easy math, you get 15 communities that stand in line. Obviously, a good chance most of that money will be gone. And that's what happened with a clean water for sewer type projects. It was first come, first served. We got so much money, 8.9 million. Everybody ready to go. Who's going to be out to bid? And boom, everybody hit all at once. So the question gets asked of me every day, even asked here, is the question is asked that, well, how long will this, what if we decide to wait? How long will this money last? I can't guarantee you, but the way things have been looking here lately, everyone's hungry. They want this type of assistance, and so can't say it would last more than a couple months before everyone.
Isn't that meeting in the next couple of days?
Actually, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah. I was gonna say, I thought it was in the next couple of
And
days.
I'm sorry, I didn't address that. The water board is considering your loan, assuming that you move forward, that they're going to consider your loan tomorrow. And
Even though they don't have the funding, DEQ doesn't have funding yet?
they will actually basically lock in your ability to take the loan out. DEQ will actually receive the funding. It's just a matter of when. So they're going to issue a board order for 1 year, so that's not in danger. It looks like Alan may want to.
I talked to DEQ today. They expect to have that money in the next couple of days, and there's some hoops they have to jump through. They think that we'd be ready to close the loan hopefully no later than mid-October, probably earlier than that. But the $1 million would be locked in. They are going to get the money. It's just a function of when do they get the money.
So, but I heard two different interest rates there, 3.36 or 3.39. I don't remember which one was the actual, but that could change between now and mid-October, which could change that $5.51. I mean, so if we, I guess, how does that cart before the horse stuff happen?
The way we've got the resolution drafted is...
This is Alan Brooks. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I should have said that. The way we have the resolution drafted, and we do this on most of these loans, is we establish a not to exceed principal amount and interest rate. The documents are drafted a not to exceed loan amount of $4 million, of which we know now we're going to get $1 million because we confirmed we're the first one to qualify for that. And we have it set up at a not to exceed interest rate of 4%. We don't expect the rates to go up by that much over that period, but obviously the idea is that we want to get it locked in as quick as we can and get that interest rate established. I guess the thing John didn't talk about, you meet the water board's debt coverage requirements, the 1.25 times debt coverage requirement. What we're talking about here is, the cash flow to repay all of the debt. And again, this was based upon kind of rates in the last couple of days, but we can set that rate within 10 days of closing. So as soon as DEQ says we have the money, we could probably get with them and get the rate set. They have a little bit of administrative work they have to do as well, but.
Maybe a question is, when will these rates be effective to our customer? I mean, when will we start the payback process?
The ordinance provides for an effective date of October 1st. And of course, that's for 351. You talked about the fact that, we could even defer that
Just to give you how this is a line of credit. You guys have done these loans before. You basically, when you close the loan, you get like a construction loan line of credit. And you don't pay interest on anything. You don't get the dollars don't land in your account. You basically start drawing against a allocated dollar amount, in this case, 4 million. And so you only pay interest on what you draw down. Well, Matt's not, as much as I have faith in Matt, he's not gonna have $1 million draw the next month or two. And so what we looked at, and it's on your piece of paper that I passed out on the very first page, if you look at interest for those different dates in the interest column, you can see that what we've had to project is you'll have closing costs, then you'll pay interest on that for some months, but very good chance that your payment, if you look here, you only pay about $20,000 in interest if you look at March and September of next year. Now that's assuming, I'm trying to guess what your draws are gonna be. They're not gonna be substantial, but you're gonna have a lot more in draws next September than you will in March. And so what I was looking at here was, in that scenario, about $21,000 is what you would pay in interest. Would you need to raise your rates? I wanna make sure, I think something was just stated. You would have to increase your rates by 551, you just have this other rate falling off. And so I want to make sure not everyone thinks, well, the rate that went on was supposed to be the 351. I think that's obvious, but I want to point that out. You could wait till April 1st. You could pass it, put it in the ordinance, and then say it doesn't become into effect until April 1 of 2023. I don't see that's an issue, cash flow, that's going to kill Larry as far as running the city, because I don't think March you may have $4,000 or $5,000 in interest payment you would make. So you could defer this out to that period. It's a matter of how you want to address this. So.
And that would be addressed by when you consider the ordinance. You would just amend the ordinance to provide for a effective date instead of October 1st, 2022. You would provide an effective date of April 1st, 2023. If you wanted, or any other date, prior to that time, if you wanted to do that.
This is just obviously to put you in a position, cash flow wise, to make those payments when they're at the 61,000. And so that's not, I think that's fairly straightforward.
And to defer the increase would not affect tomorrow's decision?
No. As Mr. Brooks has stated, what we're looking on is for you to cash flow this. Could have said to the city manager, you need to find 162,000 fast. But the discussion from December last year was, this is if we do 4 million, we get $1 million in principal forgiveness. This is about what the average rate increase would be per customer to pay back the loan based on where interest rates were then. And just to let you know, when we submitted the application, we assumed an interest rate of 3.15%. And so we are higher, but we're only 24 basis points or 0.24% higher than we were then. But we did build some fluff in it last December. But it will not affect the decision tomorrow whatsoever. Whether you have it go into effect next month or next April.
Any questions?
I have a question more for all of us. I'm just curious if they're going tomorrow, and we've been working on this since we talked about it in December, that we met in January. Why is it the 11th hour and we're just all talking about what we're going to do to pay for our end with our customers?
Because we just got the bids, we don't know what the bids come.
Well, that's a good question. We hired, first of all, we talked about this, and we had hoped that there'd be $1 million principal forgiveness, without knowing whether that would be allocated, whether those funds would come or not come, because that, of course, was a question. It's a question every year. This is ARPA dollars, and so, it's nothing certain. So what the council did is it went out and it hired an engineer to come up with these plans and specs. It took a long time to come up with the plans and specs. We had to do surveying throughout the community. First of all, you had to input with Vernon, and you had to, you went all around the community, you surveyed all this, and you designed all this. When all that occurred, it took a while, right up till August. We then, in order to get this loan, you have to go out for bid. So immediately, once they were done, and we had a permit, because that's first what you gotta get. You gotta get a permit from DEQ. Once we got that permit, we immediately went out and took bids, because you have to have bids in hand. Those bids came in last Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah, they came in last Tuesday. So this is really the first opportunity that we've had, but we've talked about this being a $4 million project, hopefully $1 million worth of forgiveness. But the whole issue is, could we put it out to bid and get those, and get the lion's share of this project within budget? And that occurred too. Now, because we knew that the bids were going to come in Tuesday, we placed it, or we asked, because we'd already filed an application, we had an application number, and we asked that it be placed on the first OWRB. Sometimes they skip months, okay? The first OWRB meeting, which happens to be tomorrow. We got the bids on Tuesday. There wouldn't have been another opportunity to have come to you. We've actually been coming to you as quickly as we could, okay? And until we had the plans done, until we had the permit in hand, until we have the bids in hand, we couldn't come to you and tell you what this financing would look like. So I would say that that it has come together in an amazing way, and that we have delivered on our promise that we made in February, that we were going to bring this and ensure that we did have the $1 million forgiveness. It's just that it came this fast, that's when we got the bids. And it wasn't for any purpose of, trying to rush it, although, it's $1 million. We were all happy when we got $300,000 for the fire truck. This is $1 million. This is, I know we got a bunch of money for this lake out here, but that's a state and federal project. $1 million grant is for a water project. I've never seen that here. In 36 years I've been here, I've never seen that opportunity come to the community. The most we've got CDBG grants for $350,000. Maybe we got one for $450,000, but that's as much as we've ever gotten. And so, what we did is we brought this as quickly as we could, because we do want to ensure that that we're able to take advantage of this $1 million ARPA funding. The other angle is what happens to the interest rate. As we all know, if we read the paper, the Fed's talking about raising interest a point, do it all at once. Is that happening? I'll tell you, I go around the state at different cities with these guys, and for years they've been telling, well, we don't know if the rate's going to go up or down. I've heard that for years. Well, I think that we know that may be on the short-term market, but on any kind of long-term market, the rates are headed up. In my career, our rates have been not 3.36. They've been 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. In my career, the rates have been very, very high. In fact, in order to get a decent rate, like a 4 or a 5 or a 6 back in the 80s, the 90s, you had to do a variable rate. And then, the rate during that term could actually go up. So, one of the important things is the rate. The other important thing is that this is 30-year money, which is a longer term than what we've experienced in the past. The McMurtry loan, what was the McMurtry loan?
Well, it
Was that 30?
Yes.
Was that,
But
Well,
our last
well, it's 27, but we paid.
OWRB program was 10. We've done shorter programs in the past.
Yeah, but that's
This
good
is a
because we've
little
intentionally
longer.
done it.
Yeah. And this
So,
is a much longer financing.
the answer is we've been, we've been staying on top of this, and we've been bringing it to you at the earliest time we can have all the factors converge. And those factors were all discussed in December, January, February when we hired. It's just that it's all come together. So this was the first meeting after the plans were done, the permit was gotten, and the bids came back. And in order to, if you wanted to, in order to see that we can nab it, we got on the water board agenda.
Well, I think not to put words in your mouth, Tim, but I think there were things that were uncertain, but we knew a lot of things that you mentioned, that we talked about how big the project was gonna be and the different pieces. I think it was at one point multiple projects, but kind of making it the one. But what we didn't talk about is the where we would fund it from and how that would affect the customers.
Yeah,
I think there was discussion back in December whenever we started to do this, because we went back through the notes that at least Meredith and I, and we were talking a $6 per customer rate whenever we talked about moving forward. Now, we haven't talked about what that rate looks like since, because we didn't know interest rates, we didn't know what the forgiveness number was, but the top end that we started with back in December was, to fund this, it's going to take additional funds, because our capital dollars, you guys remember capital meeting, when we went down what I call the cafeteria list, what are we going to do and what are we not going to do? That we're out of capital dollars, in our operating budget, and the only way to fund this was going to be through a utility rate adder in some way, shape, or form, And at that point, we were estimating a top end of 6. We were hoping for a 4.5, maybe a 5. It's gonna settle out at $5.50. It's kind of where that settles out now. So we did that on the first piece because there was no reason to do the engineering, there was no reason to do those other pieces if we weren't going, if that ballpark was outside of what we were going to be able to implement.
Yeah, and although it's $5.51, because we've got this $2 coming off, the net increase to the consumer is essentially $3.51. And I think in the agenda, we provided additional information. Rural water charges $15 per thousand. We charge $3.31 per thousand. Stillwater charges between $7 and $8+ per thousand. We charge $3.31 per thousand. And that's, of course, where the argument is, you really ought to affect the rate rather than put this on. You really ought to raise the rate. Well, you have to raise the rate 33 1/3%. Actually, essentially a full dollar, and, as between, effectively $3.31 and bringing you a proposal, even a hybrid proposal, to put a little bit on the base, and then put, to cut that and have 17% on the rate payer. We felt certain that would be something that the council probably wouldn't want to do, because that's, that's significant. We talked about a 4% rate. Of course, we've got the CPI ordinance. We could have gone with an 8+% CPI rate on our rates. We proposed a 4, and we dropped down to a 2. And I know that I know all the talk is our, our electric rate, and particularly now with the heat and with the power cost adjustment, all cities are suffering this, and all customers are suffering this. But I think it would be short-sighted not to look at this as, this is a water rate. And in water, our rates are low, and they're right. And of course, in trade for this amount of money, effectively $351, we're getting $4 million worth of improvements. But we haven't made this significant water improvements in 20 years. I mean, it's been the McMurtry project, where we encircled the city with water lines, and then we did some water lines north of Fur, east-west water lines north of Fur, and then literally we did something over in Market Street, the CDBG grant, but literally there hasn't been anything in 2 decades. And just like this council had so much forethought in doing this master sewer project and then implementing all 5 stages of it, this is this is what Vernon and the staff came up with to replace water lines, and then also the things that we're going to do to the towers are going to allow us to utilize the height of the towers and increase pressure in areas. Correct, Matthew?
Yes.
So I mean, this is a giant water project. So it's easy to talk about what the cost is. But you've got to look at the other side, and that's the benefit to the consumer. And what we are recommending is that this be funded with a, of course, with a utility charge, because that's the utility payers ought to pay for the upgrades to the system. It's a major upgrade to the system. With that $500,000, that's the best answer I can do. But it's a really fair question, because we haven't talked about money before. We did have the meeting with Matthew a couple of meetings ago when we told you that this was coming, but we didn't re-talk about money. That's very true. We wanted to get all the numbers right.
Council, any more questions? Matthew, a question I may have for you is that at some point these water lines are going to need to be replaced. I mean, they've been in there a long time, so this may be our best opportunity.
Well, water lines have a very long life expectancy, but the price to put them in the ground can go up drastically.
Exactly.
As we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years now. I mean, the cost keeps going up. Every year it seems to keep going up right now. It's been quite an event to watch the cost of putting water lines in the ground. But just over the past 2 or 3 years, it's nearly doubled. So if systems keep putting off improvements for another 10 years, what's that dollar amount going to look like in 10 years? So I feel that systems are money ahead when they invest in their infrastructure now, as opposed to putting it off for another 10 years.
I just think in society in general, when prices go up, we never see them come back down. It's just the way it works. And so this may be our good opportunity. I can completely agree, 100%.
So since this does have a cap on it, to your point, prices are not in our favor. And obviously this is a longer project, being that it's touching so many. What happens if do the projects just fall off if we can't meet them within the $4 million?
We set unit prices in the contract documents, and the contractor has to honor those unit prices throughout the duration of that construction contract. They have to hold their bid good for 90 days, so we have time to finalize the financing and get everything in place. But they have to hold those unit prices good for 90 days, and we can increase or decrease those quantities however we need to. If we decided we wanted to add another 1,000-foot line at the end of the project, we essentially could say, here's a contract amendment to be able to go in and do additional work at those unit prices. Now, it might turn into a fight if the material prices skyrocket during construction, but you are protected from market fluctuations in prices during construction on this project.
Yeah, these bids are locked in, and the good thing is we got bids from superior companies. And in fact, this low bid from this company, this is a great company. Yeah.
So if materials skyrocket, we're still protected, they
Yes,
still have
oh,
to install them at that price?
absolutely, yes. And we're not only protected that way, but we're protected by way of a performance bond. And that is, to the extent this is, what is it, what is the water line piece?
It is 2.75 million.
Yeah, 2.75 million. Well, we have a performance bond, that's the amount of the whole project. And if there's any issue with it, that surety stands ready with that same amount of money to fulfill the agreement. And that's why we bid these pursuant to the Oklahoma Public Competitive Bid Act. So you not only have the promise of the contractor, and you've got the money in hand, you get the promise of the surety in the same amount of the contract. So you will get the project done for that price. That's the way it works.
I have a question about the interest rate. If the Fed raises their interest rate tomorrow, 0.75, 3/4 of a point tomorrow, like they might do, how does that
How does it affect this?
That's where I was going earlier, that's what I was trying to get answered.
You hear this quite a bit. If you haven't heard it, it's called built-in. Is everyone that's, this is tied, this actual rate is tied what's called the MMD, Municipal Market Data. And it's based on the assumed rates that of municipal bonds that are sold. Of course, tomorrow, if it's a 75 basis point increase or 100 basis point increase, that's in the Fed fund rate, that typically you see rates, treasury rates, everything else kind of move along at the same, but because this has been discussed, you have 2 more Federal Open Market Committee meetings between now and the end of the year, when the discussion was about what they were going to do tomorrow, that everyone starts adjusting for those rates in the market now. And so it won't be, I'm saying you won't have a single basis point or 0.01% that's going to go up, but that's already what they use the term baked in. But I'm not going to tell you what tomorrow's rate's going to be or the next day after that. I can tell you is the municipal market and the selling of like revenue bonds and general obligation bonds, as the Treasury is very emotional. It will react globally and it'll go up 10 basis points and down 10 back-to-back days, whereas the municipal market is a little more stable right now. And so, and the MMD, which is the index that's used for this, that's based on municipal issues, not on what the Treasury is specifically doing. And so, as I stand here and tell you this, I can't really tell you what's going to happen with the rates if they're not, but they're not going to go up 75 basis points or 100 basis points. That's already, like I said, it's assumed.
It's kind of like your stock, your equities. It's kind of baked in there too, when you see how the stock
Everybody
market
reacts thinking, okay, here's how we got to position ourselves. And just for those of you who certainly don't deal with this every day, let's say you had the Dow drop 2,000 points. With people that have equity securities, whatever, stocks and bonds, or stocks, that they're going to jump out and go into safe haven. They're going to go into the municipal market, which drives those interest rates down. We've kind of seen a little bit of that stabilizing, where you may have the Dow kind of reacts negatively and it drops 1,000 or 2,000 points. So, but you're not going to see 75 or 100 basis point jump in this. And right now, you are capped, Mr. Brooks had mentioned earlier, the document in front of you caps this at 4%. I hope that's not even close to a concern of what we see when DEQ addresses, okay, now we have the federal money, the water board can lock the rate in. Hopefully, that's very close to the 3.39 of what it is today.
And that's what you anticipate, but.
And I
who knows?
anticipate that.
I mean, you always have to talk about the worst.
But for you guys to quantify this in your head, you say, all right, what if it did go up from 339 to 360? That's a 21 basis point jump. That's going to cost you, if you had a 25 basis, that's $5,200 a year additional interest that will cost you in that kind of jump. But that's a significant jump to go up another 25, but.
That was the question.
I mean, another
About
issue.
how much more would that cost us per year if it did go up?
Another issue we've talked about in a lot of other communities where bids are coming in so high, construction bids, this is the first year of this stimulus money that's being, I mean, the Congress passed this infrastructure bill last year. This is the first year that they have raised the amount of money coming into these programs, and it's what's driving all of these projects. Unfortunately, what we're concerned about is prices are higher now, but this is the first year. I mean, Wind Construction is an example, the contractor we're talking about, they're taking on projects right now. All these other projects are going to be coming to market over the next few years, and as each of these contractors kind of fills their capacity to do projects, they either stop bidding or they raise their prices. We can't tell you what prices are going to be 4 or 5 years from now, but the fact that we have all this money, we're on the front end of that. We're concerned that projects that don't get done today are just going to cost more 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road because of, again, all of this stimulus, all of this extra money that's going to get potentially pumped into the economy over the next 5 years.
And as we were asked earlier, would this money still be around? There were these other programs that started out that there were people in line to get money and they just weren't ready in time. So those dollars were ate up. So,
Any further questions for John?
thank you.
Thank you, John. Well, we can move on, I guess, to item 11. Is that right, Bryce?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Let's hear them all.
Okay. Consider and take action with respect to resolution number 2022-11, the City Council of the City of Perry, Oklahoma, approving action taken by the Perry Municipal Authority, authorizing issuance and sales and delivery of its drinking water SRF promissory note to the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, ratifying and confirming a lease agreement. Hereby the city leased its water, sanitary sewer, and electric systems to the authority, approving and authorizing a sales tax agreement and containing other provisions related to. Is this a presentation that Alan was going to do?
My presentation is to be very short compared to Matt and John. This is the resolution of the city, companion resolutions on the authority agenda. These two resolutions authorize the incurrence of indebtedness, again, in a principal amount of not to exceed $4 million and an all-in interest rate of not to exceed 4%. Term of the transaction is 30 years plus the construction period. As John mentioned, this is a line of credit or a drawdown note. First dollars we would draw, assuming we close the loan, is we would draw the $1 million of principal forgiveness first. So we'd start paying interest once we kind of cleared out that first $1 million. John's given you some projections on what the debt service would look like, but this basically authorizes the documentation associated with closing the loan. So if you approve this tonight, we authorize or designate to the chairman or vice chairman of the authority to sign off on the actual interest rate, as long as it's under 4%. And again, our goal would be, if we move forward with this, to get that rate locked down as early as we possibly could. If DEQ says we got the money by the end of this week, we would be talking to the water board about going ahead and getting the rate set at whatever the rate was at that point in time, anticipating they're going to have some administrative time, and it might be mid-October before we close, but we would move as quickly as we could to set the rate. Anyway, these resolutions on both the city and the authority side authorize the transaction to move forward. Be more happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, council? This is your opportunity.
How quickly did you say that we could get the interest rate locked in?
As soon as DEQ gets word, they're going to get the money, okay? It just hasn't landed yet. They think that's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 days when I talk to the main person at DEQ that deals with this. There's some administrative time after that, but I would, again, as soon as he said we had the money, I would be talking to the water board and saying, you know, they've got a little bit to do, but why don't we go ahead and lock the interest rate? And I think, again, hopefully in the next few days.
That's quick.
What if we pass this tonight and we don't get the $1 million tomorrow?
Can I address that? The water board has this on their agenda for approval tomorrow. If you pass this tonight and they don't approve it tomorrow, then this is, time we spent tonight was a waste for you and for us, okay? The water board has not, the water board has never turned down a staff recommendation. This is being recommended to the water board's board of directors by their staff. And again, in all the years I've been working with, I've never seen one that they didn't approve. So we fully expect it would get approved tomorrow. And when it gets approved, we know that $1 million of it's going to be principal forgiveness because, again, this is the first one that qualified. So that's going to happen. So I don't think we have anything to worry about. Worst case scenario, if I'm wrong, then we toss these documents in the trash and move on to something else.
We sure hate to see that, because we've already got a lot of money tied up in this.
I understand. I, again, do not foresee that happening.
Yeah.
As a grandmother and a great-grandmother, to turn down $1 million seems like a shame to not invest that in the future of our next generations. And I think it was made real to me when I went to my daughter's 40-year class reunion this weekend, and all the kids that were there that had no mothers and fathers anymore, you know, so we do have to think about the future generation, even though it might hurt us a little bit right now.
To Bryce's point earlier, that, I mean, there's a bunch of communities around the state that are hoping right now that you decide not to do this, because they would be happy to take this $1 million.
And we think
Very much
about,
sought after.
on a whole different aspect, we just continuously talk about expansion of this town. And this is very vital. I mean, we keep building houses and businesses and doing things like that. So at some point, our capacity, you know, may be altered by bad water lines. And then we gotta come back in a year or two and go, well, we've outlived this and we can't pump enough water and now what are we gonna do? So that's a whole different perspective that we're not thinking about is the expansion of our community.
Actually, that is a good perspective to think about because every water meter we add should affect this rate. I mean, every one we add, should it still be 551? If we expand greatly in the next 5 years, are we gonna address that?
But we gotta deal with what we got now. We can't see into the
I'm
future.
saying if in 5 years we have a huge expansion, are we gonna come back and address it, is my question.
Well, we always have the ability to amend our rates.
I mean,
this adder isn't
but
getting
that's not what we
played.
typically, we don't typically amend the rates mid-note. We would typically let the note run the 30.
Yeah, but the adder's not pledged. Well, I mean, all the dollars, all the revenues pledged generally, but it's not like a specific sales tax pledge or something. I mean, our pledge is the covenant.
Maybe the practical side of that would go to that is, as your population grows, as the number of users grow, it's more likely that you're gonna have to have more infrastructure still to service. So I mean, realistically, rates don't usually go down.
Right.
So,
And I haven't talked to staff about this at all, but we do have and Russ may throw something at me, but we do have the Mercury project. And it comes to maturity in 3 or 4 years.
26?
Yes, and then but we still get to collect the tax afterwards for more water projects, which we're estimating will be about another $1 million.
Well, will this be replacing some of the clay pipes, whatever out there?
That's a Matthew question.
Cast iron pipe, old cast iron pipe. So probably 60s, 70s, maybe early 80s.
Well, I will make this remark too. Earlier, we invested enough to have more water towers than any other town our size. And so it'd be a shame not to have water lines that would accommodate them.
Bill, what was your thoughts on that?
On what part?
The Mercury,
I was just thinking that if there would be maybe a reduction on the bill from some fees and some sales tax that would benefit from.
Well, it all depends on what we do with that
The
1.25%
yeah.
sales tax. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, and so we've got a short period there between the expiration of the of the debt payment and then sales tax falling off. And really what happens with that sales tax going forward, you know, it's $580,000 a year, you know.
Well, we could have a different project,
Exactly.
or we could pay down on this project.
What do
we will have an overage
Yeah.
on that, right?
He said about
Yes, we will have
$1
an
million.
overage. Yes, I mean, we'll have at least $1 million overage, barring something unforeseen. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you what the future's holding anymore. I think 20 and 21 taught us that. But, you know, we will have that, you know. And so when we get to the end of this decade, say it in those terms, when we get to the end of this decade, you know, we'll be looking at, give or take, depending on what interest rates are and what those things are, I mean, we'll be looking at a $12 to a $15 million project, you know, that we'll be taking on, to the extent that we get another penny sales tax and those things continue to roll. You know, but what we do at that point, you know, I mean, yeah, we could drop it off if the sales tax comes back on. You can use the sales tax to pay this $160,000 a year, you know. But
So
I
can we
think
pay
at
this
that
down faster? Right, is there a penalty if you pay this faster than, I would
This
say more than 160?
This loan is only prepayable to water board's consent. They pledge the cash flow from this loan to their bonds.
And they go out and issue bonds.
Right.
Sorry, explain that part of it, the backside of what the OWRBs do.
Yeah, OWRB takes the cash flow from this loan and pledges it to their debt. So these loans are only prepayable with their prior written consent. If they have bonds that are going off or prepayable, and that makes sense, then they would historically, they would agree to do that. But again, it depends on kind of what their cash flow issues are. There's probably other things that you could use your cash to pay down versus this. But again, they have agreed to letting us pay off debt in the past, but it does require their consent.
Well, it depends on what our interest rates are at that point.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
if we're looking at 5 and 6% interest rates, you know,
Elsewhere.
at that
Better
point,
hold your
then
cash.
we're gonna keep this piece and we'll pay down on the other project. It's just it's a matter of the cash flow function and what makes the most sense at the time.
By way of
Sure, they let
example,
us.
Russ and his office, John and his office are constantly looking at opportunities to go in and restructure debt at lower interest rates, and so that'll be watched, for sure.
I think it's a project that needs done. and I like what the city has been doing because we have been expanding and we've been giving people more options. But we've also, when we raised that electric, you had even said, well, the average person's not gonna see much of a difference on their bill. Well, that was also before all this inflation hit, and now people are paying almost double sometimes. And so we just keep asking for more and more and more. And when I look at expansion, I look at future. When I look at future, I go, well, people are gonna wanna live here. But if we keep asking people for money more and more and more and more, why are people gonna move here?
Well, we are a full-service town, though. A lot of other towns our size don't offer the same services we have, so we do offer more for people for the money they spend here.
But people are getting to the point where they can't afford to live here.
Everybody is seeing higher utility bills right now as well. I mean, we just
It's
compared
all
some
over
of
the
that
state.
from.
Yeah, you're not gonna be
Saw
able to move and
the
avoid
news that
that.
came out that
Department of Energy just released the U.S. report comparing June of '21 to June of '22. 49% increase on average across the U.S. in the price of electricity that all homes were paying. Gone from a little over 7 cents to over 11 cents per kilowatt hour. And that's U.S. wide. It's not just us. So I don't think it's going to matter where those people are living. No matter where they're living, they're paying more right now. It's not. I'm just trying to reassure you that it's not just Perry or OMPA cities that are driving up the cost of that electricity
Well, and
for their
I should have
customers.
said
It's
that I don't.
everybody.
I don't think it's our fault as a whole. I mean, in fact, I know it's not our fault as a whole because we can't control everything that's going on before it even gets to us. I understand that. But I also don't want to push more on them if I don't have to.
But what we're gonna do if we also know there's a huge house fire a couple weeks ago. What if we're pumping water to that house fire and we blow a water line or something?
I'm literally speaking for what the people tell us. That's what I'm supposed to do. And a lot of people are not happy right now.
Well, thank goodness they voted for the hospital tax.
Yes.
79% of them did, so, they may not be, but God, that was such a. Is this our first meeting since then? No.
No, we had.
No, we had, so, that was a great thing.
I think maybe we need to have some sort of communication or something in the electric bill or something that states in layman's terms how much they're getting charged per kilowatt hour from the city, the power cost adjustment factor. What is that? People really have a hard time knowing what even when you tell them. And I don't know what the answer is, but it's just, a lot of people just don't understand their bill.
I will say this, Autumn contacted OMPA. There is a video that does explain PCI, the power cost adjustments. And we were actually getting ready to probably put that on our Facebook so people can see that as well.
And then what about the rates that the city charges that we charge? How much do we charge per kilowatt hour? And somebody, Autumn had posted that somewhere, the rates, but I don't remember what they were. Your first so many thousand is at this rate, and if you go over that, then it's a higher rate, and then that's why people were saying, well, all they're doing is they're dividing how many kilowatt hours they use in their price. They're saying, well, why is the price this month and this the next month, when what it is they had used more electricity, and so the rate was higher for a part of it. And people just don't, they just think we're trying to take everything. And it's not, it just needs to be explained, and I'm not the one to.
Yeah, in all reality,
And it is hard, I mean,
And it's
my
hard,
utility
and-
bills are
yeah.
high, I mean, my
And-
bills are high too, and
in all reality, you know, the CPI, when we started talking about doing our rate increase, was 9.1%. And we raised our rates 2%.
Right.
Right.
So we're not going forward, we're going backwards 7%.
Well, and we can all explain that all we want,
Yeah,
and I have, trust me,
yeah.
but, you know, it doesn't matter when everything outside of us is raising it that much more, and they don't understand that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, ultimately, you know, like Russ was saying, that the power cost adjustment, you know, it costs so much more to produce electricity now. And then it was so hot in June. I mean, when it's 80 degrees outside, it doesn't take near as much power to cool your house off. But when it's 110, it takes twice the power to cool your house off.
and for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. So people don't understand that. They're like, what's June? They don't take into effect that what the heat outside was, you know? So, yeah, I mean, we can't control Mother Nature. I mean, we can all control our thermostat, and nobody wants to turn that thermostat up. So,
One thing about listening to the people, and I've had a lot of people talk to me about it and complain, that makes our job hard, is you want to please the people and you want to hear them, but yet on this side of it, you have to see what's important to go forward with. When you've got $1 million free there, hanging in the balance, it's hard to pass that up, knowing that it would cost us more if we didn't have it and was forced to spend that $4 million. Does that make sense?
it does make sense. And it makes me really excited to hear Gloria talk this way, because she's the most
Well, I
conservative
know,
person
I
on the
watch
council. She's saying, go forward.
I do watch the money, but I just see the importance of this with all the money that we've already spent on water projects around town through the years.
Yeah. I just think that it's sooner or later, I mean, it comes to us at a bad time. But sooner or later, we're gonna have to do this project. And the cost is gonna be through the roof if we don't bite now. And we may not have any forgiveness money. It may be all out of our coffers, you know?
Right now, we're getting 25% off.
Exactly. And basically what they're saying, it's interest-free when you calculate that in.
Right.
And where are you ever gonna come up with that at?
Well, and it is infrastructure that we need. It's not like we're just looking for projects to get the front of the
Correct.
line. We asked for an analysis based on what the city needs to be able to have the infrastructure in place to support the community.
I think a lot of this would be a lot easier to explain to the public, but we already have all these fees, like drainage fees, and then, you know, we have a street department, but what streets have we fixed? You know, and people see that every day, and they're like, well, we're paying y'all for this, but we're not getting anything out of it. You know,
Well,
So,
these are the hardest projects to discuss with the public, because they can't see it. That sewer line, that phase 1 through 5, and water line projects, they can't drive up and actually look at something and go, wow, look, that looks nice, you know? These are the tough ones. But water comes out of that hydrant every time I turn it on. And I'm blessed for that. And I just think, you know, we're talking about tying all the towers in, getting the towers all working. Water pressure will go up in town. As we expand, there's more and more people turn their faucets on. You know, we need that. But I think about our public service as far as fire department. What would happen if we'd have a major downtown fire or something? Something goes bad.
So we have evidently acknowledged the need with the surveys or whatever that we have got. There is a need. How, forgive me for not knowing all
No,
of
it's
the
cool.
background with all of this. Maybe I feel like I'm asking something that's already been beat to death, but, you know, what we, you know, Vernon's back here come to this meeting to say how how do you feel? Is this a need? Is this something that you feel like is what we have to do?
I helped put the project together at the beginning. Of course, it's gotten a lot bigger than where it was when we started a year ago or 9 months ago, whatever it was. Looking at it, I mean, it's a main trunk line, and normally whenever it breaks, it's a 2 or 3 day fix. It affects everybody within the town, pressure-wise, or no water. Getting the north tower online will help a whole lot in pressure. We'll be connecting the 12-inch loop. So we're gonna have more of a loop. Right now, we come out of the plant, we come around, we stop at Ditch Witch. When we bring this around the other way, it'll still be like a two pressure zone. One will be higher than the other. But if we lose pressure on one side, then this one can come over and help this one. Or when that one loses pressure out there, town can actually go out and help feed that. So it's gonna help a lot. I mean, having the generators at the plant's gonna be one of our bigger, being able to operate when the power goes out, where we have issues. To be able to keep everything full in fires or, so yeah, I mean, on my side of it, yes, I feel it'll benefit us a lot.
Thank you. I think hearing it from the guy that's out there on the front line, working on these things every day, I mean, I don't know what speaks more volumes than that for the need. Is it gonna be tough to pay for? Is it gonna be tough for us as citizens? Right now, yes, but in the future, is it gonna be tougher for us to pay for those breakages that may happen? I mean, how do we pay for a major break right now? It comes out of somebody's budget, I'm sure. So if we go ahead and get those fixed, if we get that fixed, look for at our and get our I guess expansions in place here. I see that sometimes it's cheaper to put those expansions in while you're fixing things than it is to try to do it later anyway. And that was kind of what I was sitting here waiting for, to see what Vernon's thought was, because his opinion, I think, weighs a lot more with our citizens than it does than our opinions and what we have said or anybody else has said here. So I don't know. I think my opinion is we just kind of figure out how to move forward.
These things don't fix themselves. We can put a man on the moon, send rockets to wherever, but they won't fix it. We can't fix it. Have a way to fix where our infrastructure fixes itself. That's where we have to come in. Again, everything that we do needs the touch of a human, and that includes this project right here. If we don't take care of it, it's not going to take care of itself.
A motion to approve resolution 2022-11.
I do have a question about the effective date.
Oh, we'll do that on the ordinance, I believe.
This is the resolution.
This is the resolution authorizing. We'll do that on 12.
I'll second that motion.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the effective date.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wine,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
No.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Bond,
Yes.
Stroller,
Colin.
Coldarn,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Thank you, council.
Bill, do you want to go back to the authority? That's the other resolution.
Yeah, let's do that.
You want to
Let's,
do the rates and the award while you're still here?
Yeah, well, we're going to go back there. I'm thinking to go back and pick up the the two resolutions first, and then we'll find out
All right.
what we want.
I need a motion to recess the council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. I need a motion to reconvene in the PMA, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Come on.
Come on, fingers.
Okay. And Wines,
Here.
Marshall,
Here.
White,
Here.
Coffee,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Williams,
Here.
Vaughn,
Here.
Goldar,
Here.
Stroller.
Yes. There was a yes, we're reconvening, not a yes.
Wasn't sure.
I know, I
Jamie, you started the whole thing.
I just wanted to see if everyone would do it.
I was like, yeah, me too.
Now I'm going through the room going, surely someone else is going to say yes.
I just saw.
I said, did he say roll call? Didn't you say roll call?
Say roll call every time.
I know, but
Okay, item 6 in the PMA.
it's funny.
Consider and take action with respect to resolution number 2022-1 of the Perry Municipal Authority, approving and authorizing a drink water SRF loan from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board of the total aggregate of the principal amount to not exceed $4 million, approving the issuance of a promissory note in the total aggregate principal amount to not exceed $4 million, secure a pledge of revenues and authorize its execution. Approving and authorizing the execution of a loan agreement in the drink water SRF loan, designating a loan trustee, and approving and authorizing the execution of the trust agreement, approving and authorizing the execution of security agreement, ratifying and confirming a leasing agreement, approving and authorizing execution of a sales tax agreement, approving various covenants, approving and authorizing payment for fees, expenses, and containing other provisions related to thereof.
Mr. Chairman, this is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Did you have anything to say?
Sorry.
No, you're great.
Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Thank you, authority members. Item 7E, new business that needs to come before the authority this evening. Hearing none, item 8, motion on the adjournment.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Motion to reconvene
Second.
city council meeting.
Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Aye.
Stroller.
Still here.
Yes.
I'm still here.
Always have to be, well, she's still there. Okay, let's see. So we on 12 now? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, I think
Something
12.
on 9.
Huh?
We could go back to 9.
Did we leave something out on 9?
Yeah, we did.
B and C.
Yeah, I mean, what those would be is authorizing the award
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
contingent upon bonds, insurance, and approval by OWRB.
All right, item B, consider award the bid and authorize the execution of the public contract, construction contract with the lowest bidder in the amount not greater than $3.8 million and detail the specific work of performance conditional upon the receipt of the bonds and insurance and approval of the OWRB.
Do we not need approval of the funds in place first in the ordinance before we approve the
Technically, no, because we have sufficient coverage. But, you know, I mean, it's not a bad comment, you know. But it's still contingent, it's just a bid, so you're not obligated. I guess, you know, we're talking about lowest responsible bid is Wind Construction.
Correct.
And the amount that we're awarding, do you have that number?
$3,311,639.23.
Okay, for this part.
That's for the whole construction project.
Right, but then we've got the change order.
That is factored into that to work within that budget of $4 million.
Okay.
So is the $200,000 on top of that money you're talking about?
There's a 5% contingency that we carry on that. Then we have the transaction cost, trustee bank fee, engineering fees, survey, inspection.
Engineering, yeah. So what is that number again?
311, 639, 23, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that would be the motion.
Okay, now let me make sure I understand that. Does that include item C, the $200,000 change order?
We have the contingent $3,311,000 figure, so.
The
we
answer
have-
is yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we have that in there. They haven't given me the change order pricing yet, but between the available budget and contingency, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're talking about awarding the bid though, in item D. And it's all contingent of the approval of OWRB. Council?
I think we're confused on how to word this.
It would be award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder, who is Wind Construction, in the amount of $3,311,639.23, contingent upon receipts of bonds, insurance, and contract, and approval by the OWRB.
You know what you're supposed to say right now, right?
So moved.
Scott, wait a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Lyons,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Coldarn,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item C, consider awarding a change order number 1 with the lowest responsible bidder to perform certain work to water tanks to be detailed at the meeting in the amount not greater than $200,000, conditional upon the receipt of the bonds, insurance, and approval by the OWRBs.
Yeah, at this point, we don't need that.
I was gonna say, why do we have to do that if,
No, we don't.
okay,
Yeah.
Because it was all in the other one?
it was all,
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
so we don't actually need to, even though the funds are, do we not need to approve the actual change order?
That will come back.
Okay.
That will come later. Right now, we're just awarding the bid, and then we'll come back with a contract and a negotiated change order.
But
Yes,
the funds are already taken care of.
that's correct. Because it's contingent. We don't have the money. Right.
So now are we on item 20? You feel comfortable with
Yes.
that? Christie?
I'm right, you do, I'm ready.
Well, I'm asking, is that where you're at?
Yep.
Okay. Item 12, consider approval of ordinance number 2022-18 of the City Council of the City of Perry, Oklahoma, amending Chapter 18 of the Perry Municipal Code 2022 by the amendment of Section A, Section 17-413 entitled Water Rates, providing for additional $5.51 monthly charge in order to repay the indebtedness incurred with the DWSRF loan secured through the Oklahoma Water Resources Board to make improvements to the city's water distribution system, providing for repealer savings, codification, severability, and effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Now, we had two options. The 551 added to the base or the rate changes for the.
Yes, ma'am. This in here, we can change the ordinance, but the ordinance in this one was stated, yeah, 551. Or we can do $2 and $1.05. Is that what we're saying here, Russ?
Well, you can do the 551, or it's $1.20, $1.23, $1.30, $1.41, based on the increasing rate.
Yeah. So if you want to be able to explain it to the customer, you want to do the 551. Or we can do the long math, in which you will never be able to explain. Which I personally was in favor of. I like raising the water rates, but
It's effectively the same thing.
it is effectively the same thing.
It's just those that use more water will be paying more, and then those that don't use as much water won't have to pay the full $5.51. They may only pay $4
Yeah.
more.
I'll be honest with you, it goes in, the 551 goes into the base rate, so it's not, my fear was, when I talked to Bryce in the first place, was that for 30 years, it's gonna say $5.51. But it goes into the base rate, it's not like our drainage fees, or, it's not gonna be itemized out at 551. So, it'll just go in our base rate, and be, instead of $25 and something, it'll be $30 and something.
And this is only gonna be charged for the life of the loan, that's it? Once the loan is over, we quit charging the 551?
30 years from now.
How old will you be?
I won't be here. I mean, I may be the youngest at the table, and 30 years from now, I won't be here, so.
That's what I said.
That's what I'm saying too, okay? So we have to choose, one way or the other to pay this.
Do you know my age?
So whatever makes you all more comfortable with, I'll support.
I like option 2. Even though it will be harder to explain.
What happens if everyone goes uber conservative and doesn't hit those extra rates?
I was waiting for someone to ask that question.
Here he comes, he's sprinting to the
He knew that was coming.
You ask me what if you have very wet summer, or you have ultra conservatives, and then you're not going to generate enough. We took last year, and looked at its volume. Last fiscal year in, I don't know if we did June through June 22, but not every year is going to be the same. And whereas base, you have 2,440 customers, a lot greater chance that that's going to be more stable than your volume usage from year to year. And there's so many different, you have so many customers that may have high, this is not just residential usage, this is your larger commercial usage. And so if that falls off, you don't generate quite as much. So I didn't really point that out earlier. It was based on a usage pattern that we don't know. But then again, $5.51 is based on 2,440 customers. That could decline or increase, so.
We hope for increase.
Yes.
Well, we hope for increased volume too.
But we're still on the hook either way, right? That's the big thing, either way we go.
Yeah.
If we don't make the money, we gotta pay for something.
I think the 551's easier.
I was gonna say, I like just the fix, I know.
Yeah, I think it's
expect.
way easier to explain to the customer that,
Or
all
me
these
as a
different
consumer, I
rates.
just know what to expect instead of just not being able to plan in today's world when you can't plan anything. I just feel like everything's variable, it feels like.
The only problem you're gonna have is those that turn on water that aren't gonna use it. Whether it's rentals or anything like that.
That's where I was going with that. I know a lot of people that doing remodels, doing different things, and they're paying the base rate. And I mean, right now, just to have utilities on, not even using them, it's $100 a month. That'll be $105.51.
103.51.
103.50. Okay. Just forget that 2 days.
That's right,
I
don't
want my
forget.
$2.
Well, hey, I just want to make sure we're getting all the right numbers.
Okay, so the $2 is coming off
Now,
now,
Yes, it'll be off this month's bill.
off of
The
September.
bill that comes out in September will not have it
For
on there.
September.
And it'll have the
And it'll have the
reimbursement?
And then it'll have approximately
Pending,
$18.
pending getting that data report from Cassell in the next couple of days. They should just be able to upload it. But yeah.
but regardless
But
whether
this
they get
doesn't
the, I'm sorry.
That doesn't sound very promising from what you're saying.
What he's trying to say is regardless, we're going to $2 coming off, and it may be another month, you know, to get the report, and then, but within the next 2 months, right?
Yes.
But the $2 is coming off.
$2 is off already. Those rates were adjusted today.
Okay. But the rebate or refund or whatever we're calling it won't be until we get the
As
numbers.
soon as I get the volume numbers by customer.
And that should be about $18.
Yes.
And there's no, I mean, what I heard is that this would not need to go into effect until April.
Correct.
But that's at our discretion too, correct?
Yes.
Because the first payment was not.
If we do something like that, I think we need to put something in with the bill every
Yes.
month from now until then.
Yes.
Letting people know that it's gonna happen. Whatever month we decide.
What would make you most comfortable?
What's
I
your
would,
smirking
I
at
would
over there?
prefer, oh, I was just thinking about Christie putting that in the bill every month, and she'll get a phone call every month. Did it go into effect this month? No, read the notice, it says it's going into effect in April. Did it go into effect? That's what I was laughing about, just the calls that they come in.
Financially, what is your preference on
I would rather keep it
establishing?
fresh in their mind though than
Well, yeah,
not. I
we're not.
don't know what,
No, no,
sorry,
I'm
I
not.
don't know what the work entails.
Just- I just looked at her,
I mean,
just made me laugh.
do we want to start before April? Like,
There's not necessarily any need to start before April. If we start before April, the additional funds would be available to pay for capital construction, and we wouldn't have to borrow the money. Okay, so, you know, I mean, we're gonna generate between now and April, we generate $80,000, you know, and if we generated that $80,000, it would be $80,000 less out of the project that we would need to borrow. So
I was just thinking
today-
like the first of the year or something. I didn't know now, but.
Well, it sounded like the first payment might be March, just somebody.
First interest payment, yes.
So, I
will
mean,
be.
So
maybe
we're gonna have to pay that out of our own money if we don't start
maybe
generating.
better to do it February
Yeah.
or March, but
That's what I thought, that $20,000 payment, I mean, we might as well generate money for that.
Yes.
Start in January.
How much money will that
They're gonna pay
551 generate per month?
Started, the better off we are.
$11,000, yeah.
Okay, so,
The
so the
longer
first
we
payment
wait.
in March,
And everyone
so it'd take
else
2 months to
in the
generate
city.
$20,000.
So it'll be January probably.
I think January 1.
And you're more comfortable with the 551 just on the base rate?
The 551 gives us a more guaranteed annual amount that I can expect. You know, I mean, it is based on the number of meters. It's real easy to track number of meters and know exactly where we are on that piece. The volume number is so seasonally adjusted, you know, I mean, and not only seasonally, but annually then, based on how wet we were, how dry we were.
Yeah.
If you remember what I talked about, you know, back in May and June, I was like, guys, we're not gonna finish the year on the same water revenue projections as where we started, just because it was wet May and June, you know, and normally we get a lot of water in April and May and June. Well, heck, we got a lot of rain. So, you know, those are the kind of things that we have to be careful for when we go with volume. The flat 550 is a whole lot easier on that. The other, and I will give you a philosophical answer also behind that. Inside the system, I always like to look at the system in two pieces. Number one, the mechanics of what it takes to get you water, sewer, electricity, gas, if we were running our gas system. There is an embedded cost, a fixed cost, that it doesn't matter if you use a gallon or if you use 10,000 gallons of water this month. There are these embedded costs that we have to pay to get you that service. Then there is the product that we're delivering, whether it be the electricity or the gas or you guys not gas, but you see what I'm saying, the water, or we're taking your sewer away. That's a volume-driven piece. And there's certain other costs that are associated with that. So we've got our fixed costs, which
Might need to be in new chairs, I think.
Kevin was trying to shoot me. Kevin was trying- Well, we got our fixed costs that we have to account for. And in that fixed cost are things like this. It should be, in my mind, things like this. Transmission lines, the water tower, the big pieces that come into that infrastructure. The volume side of it, whenever we put rates on water, it doesn't matter whether you turn your faucet on this month or not. It's kind of back to what you said of these renters. It doesn't matter if you turn your faucet on or not. You having the ability to turn your faucet on is really what we're paying for in this piece.
So the money man says 551,
One.
effective
Don't we know
January
that?
1st.
One.
Motion to approve ordinance 2022-18 and make it effective January 1. So
Providing for an additional.
providing for repealer.
We'll come back to that.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Do we need to do anything on the adder to the bill? I mean, the notice in the bill?
And we'll just do that. We'll take care of it.
Roll call, please.
Wine,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
No,
what'd she say?
Yes.
Yes.
yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Williams,
Yes.
Bond,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Motion on emergency, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Wine,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes,
Williams,
Yes.
Bond,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Thank you, council. Item 13, consider approval of the consulting services agreement with Willie Sheets for the Perry Water Systems Project. Willie is our inspector. He's inspected all of our sewer projects. He's pretty much been all of our water line inspector here lately, and he's doing a great job. So we need to approve his services for this project.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wine,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
yes,
Williams,
Yes.
Bond,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item 14, consider approval of agreement for building code compliance services with Interstate Construction Administration Network Incorporated. Okay, you can remember back whenever we had some issues with someone in our industrial park, and they were giving our staff a hard time, so we went to OMMS and got Mr. Paul Gunderson to come in here and be our inspector from an outside source. He was really good at his job, very knowledgeable. So he's no longer with OMSS. He's with this other organization, and he's offered his services over there, so that's the direction we'd like to go.
And he's offered his services at the same rate?
Yes. Same rate.
Motion to approve.
second,
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wine,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item 15, consider approval of ordinance number 2022-19, amending chapter 15 of the Perry Municipal Code 2022 by the addition of a new section 15-553 entitled Driving Through Driveways, Parking Areas, Circling, providing that no driver of a motor vehicle shall drive through a public or private driveway, service area, or parking area to avoid an intersection or traffic control device, providing for exceptions, providing for presumption, providing for repealer savings, codification, severability, and penalty, and declaring emergency. And this really blows my mind because I've been pulled over for this.
I thought it was a law. I was like, I could have been doing this for a long time.
And let's go to the person who.
Does this include those fellas? And I know it's a guy that owns a motorized bicycle. Does it include driving motorized bicycles through
I get
convenience
so many
stores?
questions on those
not a motor
bicycles, just to clear a point.
It's not a motorbike?
It's not a motor vehicle. If you've got a mean of pedaling, it's street legal. You don't have to have a license,
I never see you pedaling.
Well, I don't pedal mine.
What if we use that link
He does have-
going through this parking lot? Does that count?
No, well, I couldn't believe we didn't have this ordinance, and we have had officers pull people over in the past, and we don't have an ordinance. I couldn't believe it, and every other city I know of has this ordinance. Just to kind of clarify, the most dangerous intersection I believe in town is 6th and Fir.
That's where I got stopped.
You're coming into town, coming west, and you come up to the light, and it's red, and you cut across the drive-through. Somebody's gonna get hurt. I can't believe, and then vice versa, you're going east.
To the convenience store.
You get cut through Senior C's, and when Bryce brought this up, I'm like, we have an ordinance. No, we don't. And I said, I wasn't aware of that. So I think it's really a safety issue, and I'm all for it. So, if you got any other questions? But it details every intersection in this town, but that seems to be the hardest hit at 6th and Fir.
So, in the past, since you didn't have an ordinance.
They got cited and they got dismissed because we don't have an ordinance on it.
Bill, when yours got dismissed, how come you didn't bring it to the council and try to get
I
it
didn't get a
fixed?
ticket.
He cries when we pull him over and we feel sorry. So we're like, Bill, just go home. So.
I've only been pulled over one time since I've been on the council. And he said, go home. Not him, his officer.
But anyway, I mean, it fathomed me. I thought we had an ordinance and we do not. So I think we really need this ordinance throughout the city.
Well, I support that. I thought we did.
I did too.
I thought common sense told you not to do that.
Well, I was much younger back then, okay?
I thought it several times, and I thought, oh, that'd be against the law. But I did see somebody go through Senior Seats this week, and he had come off of the highway, and I mean, he just went over there so fast, it scared me. I really.
People pulling out of the pumps, and there's a lot of walkers in that area. It's going to happen. If we got an ordinance, we can prevent something.
When he went across there, it scared me, because he was traveling fast.
Yeah.
Motion on the ordinance, please.
I make a motion, we do that.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Item 16. Oh, declared emergency on that, Pat.
Oh,
Yes.
motion to declare emergency.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Item 16. Authorized payment of $589,762 to Banner Fire Equipment Incorporated for the 2022 E1 Spartan pumper in the amount of $589,762 and $1,835.26 to Banner Fire Equipment for equipment, matting, and shelf.
We've already,
Pardon? What were you
She
saying?
said we've already approved all this, this is just approving the payment.
Yes, just the payment, yes.
And I said so moved.
Okay.
So
we've already
are
did
we
it.
paying $589,762, or are we paying $591,500?
Whatever those add up to. But we got a $300,000 grant, correct, Russ?
There's a CDBG grant, yes, and then we're paying the balance out of our ARPA.
Yeah, so we're actually just paying to 289 plus.
290 some thousand.
Yeah, plus
Yeah,
18.
that first number should really be scratched.
Yeah, I was gonna say-
Yeah,
That
you're
first
right.
one?
Yeah, it
Yes.
doesn't read right. You're exactly right.
Yeah, I was-
Payment
they're
to
right.
banner fire equipment is the way it
Just
ought
said
to
authorized
be.
payment of the.
Motion to approve payment to Banner Fire Equipment Incorporated for the $589,762 and the $1,835.26.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Bond,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Item 17, any new?
I'll just note, I just texted Marita and have a chance to, I asked her, we're doing this now, because of course, 300,000 of that's coming from the grant. And she says I'll need a copy of the invoice and PO. Once I get it, I'll request the grant funds. So of course, 300 or so is coming from that grant. I just want to make sure everybody knows that's not all coming from our bottom line.
That's what we just.
And I just said that.
Yeah, he was sleeping.
Oh, okay.
That's all right.
He was reading text.
Yeah, he's drawing pictures over there.
He was doodling.
So, item 17, any new business needs to come before the council this evening? None? Okay. Item 18.
Bill, we don't have to do the first item or the second item. All that we really need to do is 3 and 4.
3 and 4, all right. That being said, man, it cuts out a lot of work. 18, consider convening an executive session to confer on, 1, to confer on a matter pertaining to economic development of the city of Perry, to discuss a proposal to remodel and extend the lease of the hospital and thereby approve the economic development of the city of Perry, as a public disclosure of the proposal will interfere within the development and implementation of the proposal pursuant to 25 OS 307C11, the state statute. And item 4, confidential communication between the city attorney and the governing body concerning a case styled CB 2022-10, the city of Perry versus Van Meadows Lands LLC, and the governing body determines, with the advice of the city attorney, the disclosure of this seriously impairs the ability of the governing body to contact or conduct impending litigation.
Motion to convene executive session for these two items.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Bond,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Not yet.
We need those two, yeah.
Item 19, motion to reconvene in the regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wine,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Item 20, take any action with respect to executive session. Hearing none, item 21, motion on adjournment.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Wine,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yep.